A gang leader threw Bruce Lee's jacket into the mud, then hit the ground beside it. The jacket hit the mud before Bruce Lee threw a punch. Hong Kong. A tight back alley gym wedged behind a market where rain never fully dries. Wooden window frames sweated moisture. The concrete floor was slick, stained dark from years of spilled water and bloodless hard work. Heavy bags hung like bruised fruit. Sweat and damp air mixed into one smell you couldn't wash out. Bruce wasn't here to show off. He wore a simple dark jacket, clean, fitted, the one decent thing he owned. Not for style, for timing. After training, he had a meeting with a man who could open a door, a film contact, a teaching opportunity, a step out of alley gyms and into something bigger. That jacket was his "I'm serious" armor. He stepped inside and felt the tension instantly, before he even heard it. A local gang leader was posted on a bench like a landlord, Lau Kai, mid-30s. Calm face, lazy eyes, the kind of stillness that wasn't peace, it was ownership. Two boys stood near him, collecting fees from fighters who were already broke. The gym owner, an older man with chalk hands and a tired spine, pretended not to see it, because if he spoke up, this place would be shut down, or burned. Bruce watched as one of Lau Kai's boys shoved a skinny teenage student into a wall. The kid's coin pouch spilled. The boy snatched the money like it was a joke. The kid didn't fight back. He just blinked fast and tried to gather what fell. Bruce's voice cut through the room, quiet but clean. Let him train. The gym didn't go silent like a movie. It went silent like a warning, like the air had been pulled out. Lau Kai's eyes lifted for the first time, slowly, like a man noticing a mosquito that spoke. He saw Bruce, young, lean, Chinese, wearing a clean jacket in a dirty room. Lau Kai didn't know who he was. All he saw was someone who didn't understand the rules. Lau Kai stood up, not fast, not angry. He smiled as he walked, like he was about to teach a kid how the world works. His boys shifted, closing distance without making it obvious. Lau Kai came right up into Bruce's space, close enough that Bruce could smell tobacco and cheap liquor. He looked at the jacket first. Not Bruce's eyes. The jacket. Then he lifted both hands and, with an almost polite motion, peeled it off Bruce's shoulders like he was removing a towel from a chair. Bruce didn't grab him, didn't flinch, just watched. Lau Kai turned, took 2 steps toward the entrance where a puddle had formed from the rain, and tossed the jacket down like trash. It landed in muddy water with a soft, pathetic slap. Lau Kai pressed his heel into it, not stomping, grinding, like he was wiping his shoes. A few people in the gym looked away immediately, not out of shame for Bruce, out of fear of what comes next in places like this. Bruce took 1 step forward. A gang boy slid in front of him. Chest to chest, not a punch, not a threat, just a body saying, "You don't get to move unless we allow it." The boy didn't even look at Bruce's face. He stared at Bruce's throat like it belonged to him. Bruce paused. His hands stayed relaxed at his sides, but his eyes sharpened, not anger, calculation. He saw the boy's stance, weight too far forward, right shoulder slightly higher, left hand twitching like it wanted to grab first. Behind them, Lau Kai spoke softly, like he was narrating a lesson for the whole room. Not like that. He pointed at the jacket, still under his heel, sinking deeper into the mud. Kneel. 1 word, heavy enough to bend pride. Pick it up like you know who owns this room. Bruce exhaled through his nose. Slow. He didn't look at the jacket. He looked past the boy, toward the exit, and that's when he saw it. 2 more gang boys had drifted to the doorway. They weren't standing like guards. They were leaning casually, arms loose, pretending it was nothing. But their feet were planted. The exit was closed. The gym had become a cage. A few fighters shifted on the mats like they wanted to help but couldn't. The owner's eyes flicked to Bruce, then down, as if apologizing without words. The teenager who'd been shoved earlier stood frozen with his coins in his hand, watching like this was the moment his whole life would learn what strength really is. Lau Kai walked closer again. He stepped off the jacket, letting it sit there ruined, as if the dirt now belonged to Bruce. Then he leaned in and spoke so only Bruce could hear it, but loud enough that the closest men still caught pieces. "You talk like you're important." His smile widened. "So we make you small." He lifted his hand, not to punch, to touch. He hooked 2 fingers under Bruce's chin and tilted his face toward the room like Bruce was a display. Everyone look. That's when Bruce understood the trap. If he swings now, they'll say he started it. The gym gets punished. The kid gets punished. Everyone who trains here pays for his pride. If he kneels, he doesn't just lose a jacket. He gives Lau Kai ownership over him in front of witnesses. Lau Kai's boys waited, breathing excited through their noses, ready for the next step. The room was holding its breath, not sure if it was about to watch a man get broken or watch blood hit the wet concrete. Bruce's jaw tightened, barely. His eyes shifted, scanning. Door, 2 men, bench, Lau Kai, puddle, tight space, bodies. He wasn't passive. He was mapping the room like a fight that hadn't started yet. Lau Kai released Bruce's chin and took half a step back, giving him space like generosity. Go on, he said, louder now, for everyone. Kneel. And right as Bruce moved, right as the gym leaned forward to see whether he would bow, one of Lau Kai's boys behind him flicked his shirt open for half a second, just enough to show the outline of a small folding knife tucked into the waistband, not drawn, not used. Displayed. A promise that the rules could change whenever Lau Kai felt like it. Bruce didn't react outwardly, but inside, something clicked into place. He stared at the mud, then at Lau Kai, then at the blocked door, and he took a slow breath like a man deciding whether he's about to ruin his own future or let someone else write it for him. Bruce didn't move fast. That's what made it worse. Most men, when the exit gets blocked, either explode or shrink. Bruce did neither. He stayed exactly where he was, shoulders loose, breathing steady, like the room was still neutral territory. Lau Kai watched him for a second, irritated by the calm. You came here for training? Lau Kai said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Good. Today you learn. One of the gang boys gave Bruce a light shove in the shoulder, testing, not to hurt him, to make him adjust, to force even one small step backward. Bruce absorbed it without moving his feet. That tiny detail landed like an insult. The boy's smile twitched. He shoved again, harder. Bruce finally shifted, half an inch not back, just angled. A rotation so small it looked like compliance, but it stole the boy's leverage. The shove slid off him like hitting a post. Lau Kai's eyes narrowed. He hated that, because the room could feel it. Bruce wasn't taking it. He was choosing not to react. Listen, Bruce said quietly, still looking at Lau Kai, not the jacket. I didn't come for problems. Lau Kai laughed, short, sharp. Now you did. He nodded once, and the gym started moving like a machine. A second gang boy stepped behind Bruce, close enough that Bruce could feel breath on the back of his neck. A third picked the jacket up with 2 fingers like it was dead skin, held it up for everyone to see, dripping muddy water onto the floor. Not many people laughed. The laughter came mostly from the gang. Everyone else stayed quiet because they understood the rule. If you laugh, you're safe. If you stay silent, you might be next. The boy dangled the jacket higher, letting it drip. Then he tossed it back down into the puddle by the entrance. A deliberate reset, like, we can do this all day. Bruce's gaze dipped once, not to the jacket but to the puddle's edge, the slickness, the angle, where a foot could slip. He looked back up. He was measuring. Lau Kai walked around Bruce slowly, like a shark that didn't need to hurry. You know what's funny? Lau Kai said. You walked in here and told my boy what to do. He stopped directly in front of Bruce. And you didn't even ask. Bruce held his eyes. I wasn't asking, Bruce said. I was stopping something. That sentence hit a nerve. Lau Kai's smile stayed, but something behind it soured. He stepped in and grabbed Bruce by the collar with 2 fingers, not a real grip, just enough to wrinkle the jacket's edge and remind everyone that Bruce was touchable. He pulled Bruce forward a few inches, forced his head down slightly. Look at them, Lau Kai said. Bruce didn't turn his head. Lau Kai's fingers slid up, not grabbing anymore, pinching under the jawline again. A humiliating grip, a handler's grip. Bruce's body remained still, but his eyes flicked. Left corner, right corner, door, bench, hands. He noticed the knife outline again under one boy's shirt. He noticed who stood on the balls of his feet ready to spring. He noticed who was just loud and who was actually dangerous. Lau Kai felt that scan like a cold draft. So he escalated. He slapped Bruce, not hard, not meant to injure, meant to echo, a loud crack in a wet room. The entire gym flinched like a single organism. The slap wasn't painful. It was worse than pain. It was a signal. He can do this to you, in front of everyone, and nobody will stop it. Bruce's head moved only a fraction with the impact. He didn't blink fast, didn't look away. He didn't touch his cheek. He just inhaled. That lack of reaction did something to Lau Kai. It didn't calm him. It humiliated him, because now it looked like Lau Kai needed a slap to feel powerful, and Bruce didn't even need to respond to stay standing. Lau Kai's voice tightened. "Again," he said, then stopped himself. He didn't slap again. He chose something worse. He leaned close and spoke low, harsh. "You're not leaving until you kneel." Then he pulled back and raised his voice so the whole gym heard. "Hold him." The gang didn't rush like amateurs. They moved with practiced certainty. One boy grabbed Bruce's right elbow. Another shoved him from behind. A third stepped in front of him, blocking him again, but now closer, forearm pressing into Bruce's chest like a bar. Bruce let himself be moved one step, not because he was weak, but because he was reading the pressure, feeling the rhythm, understanding what they wanted. They wanted him in a specific spot, right by the puddle, right by the jacket, right where everyone could watch. The boy holding the jacket lifted it again and shook it out, muddy droplets spraying Bruce's trousers. A cheap laugh from the gang. The gym owner's hands clenched so tight his knuckles went pale, but he didn't move. Fear chained him to the floor. The teenage student Bruce had defended swallowed hard, staring at Bruce like he was watching someone about to get erased. Lau Kai sat back down on the bench like a king returning to his throne. And then, calmly, almost lazily, he reached into his pocket. He pulled out a small folding knife. He didn't flick it open. He didn't point it. He just placed it on the bench beside him, metal on wood, a quiet, deliberate sound, a message to every person in the gym. The rules are mine, and the rules can change. Lau Kai looked at Bruce as if waiting for him to finally show fear. Bruce didn't, but now he understood something else. This wasn't about the jacket anymore. It was about forcing a symbol. If Bruce kneeled, even once, Lau Kai owned the story forever. And Bruce could feel the space narrowing, bodies behind him, bodies in front, the door blocked, the floor slick, the knife visible, the crowd trapped as witnesses. The cage had fully closed. Lau Kai tapped the bench next to the knife with one finger. "Kneel," he said, softer now, "or we keep going." Bruce's gaze dropped to the jacket one last time, not with sadness, with a kind of decision, because now he knew exactly what the next step had to be. And it wasn't going to be a conversation. Lau Kai said it like a verdict. "On your knees, mouth to the mud, then take your jacket." The words didn't land as a threat. They landed as a script, one Lau Kai had forced 100 men to follow until their pride learned to stay quiet. The gym didn't breathe. Even the heavy bags seemed still, hanging in damp silence. Bruce stared at the jacket in the puddle. Mud crawled up the fabric like rot. Water trembled with every small movement around it. The gang boy in front of him kept his forearm pressed into Bruce's chest, not striking, pinning. Behind Bruce, another hand stayed on his elbow, ready to jerk him down the moment he bent. Lau Kai leaned back on the bench, one hand near the knife like it was an option he enjoyed having. "Go on," he said. Bruce lowered his gaze again, and then he moved, slowly, deliberately. He started to bend. A murmur rippled through the room, the same sound people make when they're watching something ugly happen and they can't stop it. The old gym owner shut his eyes. The teenager Bruce had defended looked like he might cry. Even Lau Kai's boys smiled wider, already tasting the victory. Bruce kept bending. Lower, lower. And just as the room decided he'd broken, Bruce stopped. Not at his knees, at his level. He dropped only enough to change height, to change geometry. That's when the gang boy behind him made his mistake. He reached in, grabbing for Bruce's neck, trying to force his head down into the puddle like you'd push a dog's nose into dirt. His fingers didn't close, because Bruce was already inside his balance. Bruce's right hand shot up, not a swing, not a punch, a catch. He caught the boy's wrist with a quiet grip and rotated it a fraction. It looked harmless. Then the boy's whole body betrayed him. His elbow line turned the wrong way. His shoulder collapsed. His legs buckled like the floor had been yanked out. The boy dropped to one knee without a loud impact, eyes wide, face instantly pale, not from pain, but from the shock of losing control so completely. Bruce held him there, perfectly still, not to injure him, to show him. A warning delivered through physics. Bruce released the wrist and the boy stumbled back, clutching his arm like he'd just touched electricity. The gym froze, because nobody had seen a fight. They'd seen a man get shut off. Lau Kai laughed. But the laugh didn't match his eyes. "Nice," Lau Kai said, standing now. He clapped once, slow. "Very nice." He walked forward, jaw tight, smile forced, because he couldn't allow the room to interpret what just happened as weakness on his side. He couldn't allow his man to be the one on a knee. So he stepped closer. "I'll do it myself." One of his boys shifted, tense, ready to rush. Lau Kai lifted a hand, stopping them. This was personal now. He glanced down at the jacket again and then back up at Bruce. "You like stopping things?" Lau Kai said. "Stop this." Then Lau Kai did what people like him always do when the room starts slipping away. He made it ugly. He swung, wide, angry, not technique, rage. A heavy right hand meant to smash Bruce's face and remind everyone that the simplest violence still wins. For a split second, the gym believed that would be the end. Because Lau Kai was bigger, because Lau Kai had numbers, because Lau Kai had the knife on the bench. Because Bruce was cornered near the puddle. But Bruce didn't retreat. He didn't freeze. He didn't answer the swing like a normal man. He chose something Lau Kai's brain wasn't ready for. He stepped in. Not back, not to the side. Inside the strike, toward the danger. A half step that stole the punch's power mid-flight. Lau Kai's fist whistled past Bruce's cheek, missing by an inch because Bruce's angle made the swing useless, and in that same moment, before Lau Kai could recover, Bruce hit him. Not a big cinematic punch, a short, tight strike to the body that folded air out of Lau Kai like a cough. Lau Kai's face changed instantly, surprise snapping into fury. He tried to grab Bruce. Bruce's hand touched Lau Kai's neck, not choking, controlling. A firm, ugly pressure point grip that turned Lau Kai's posture into a lever. Then Bruce's foot swept. Not a dramatic kick. A simple removal of what was holding Lau Kai upright. Lau Kai's legs slid out on the wet concrete near the puddle. He went down hard, not unconscious, not knocked out, but slammed into humiliation. His palm landed first, right into the mud, his shoulder hit next, and he stopped on his side, face inches from the jacket he'd ruined. For a second, nobody moved, because everyone's brain was catching up to what their eyes had just seen. The owner of the room, on the floor, beside the jacket, in the mud. Lau Kai blinked, breathing sharp, staring at the puddle like it had betrayed him. Then, he slowly lifted his hand. Mud clung to his fingers. He stared at it. His face didn't show pain. It showed something worse. Realization. Not that Bruce was strong, that Bruce had been holding back. Lau Kai's eyes lifted to Bruce, and in that look, the room felt the shift. The moment a bully stops thinking about dominance and starts thinking about survival. Lau Kai pushed himself up on one elbow, mud streaking his sleeve. He didn't stand yet. He looked over his shoulder at his boys. His voice was low, controlled. "No laughter now. Close the alley." The gang boys snapped into motion, sudden, urgent. Someone moved toward the entrance. Someone shoved the door. Someone reached for the light switch like darkness would help them. Because part 3 wasn't the end. It was the moment the game died. And the pack decided to erase the witness. Bruce didn't look at them. He looked at Lau Kai, still on the ground beside the jacket, and understood exactly what came next. Not humiliation anymore. Now it was real danger. The moment Lau Kai said, "Close the alley," the atmosphere changed like a switchblade opening. This wasn't theater anymore. Not a lesson, not a joke. It was cleanup. 2 gang boys moved fast, too fast for casual. One slammed the gym door wider, barking something into the rain. Another stepped out into the alley and waved, sharp, urgent. The sound of feet splashing in shallow puddles answered back. Reinforcements. Bruce didn't chase Lau Kai. He didn't gloat. He didn't even look at the jacket. Because the real danger wasn't the man in the mud. It was the pack deciding that no one was allowed to see the alpha fall. The gym and the alley fused into one narrow corridor. Wet concrete, cramped space, bodies stacked where bodies shouldn't fit. The door was an escape for normal men. For Bruce, it was a funnel. Outside, 3 more figures slid into view, shoulders filling the alley mouth like a human gate. One held a bottle by the neck, another kept a hand under his shirt where metal lived. The third smiled like he'd missed the best part and didn't want to miss the ending. Inside, the original boys started moving again, no longer laughing, no longer playing. Their eyes had that flat look people get when they decide someone has to pay. Bruce's peripheral vision caught the old gym owner by the wall, frozen, and the skinny teenager a few steps behind him, clutching coins with white fingers. Bruce had space to run, but if he ran, the storm would hit the people behind him. And Lau Kai knew it. He pushed himself up, mud streaking his forearm, breathing hard, face twisted, not with pain, with humiliation that had turned rancid. "Take him," Lau Kai said. That was all. The pack surged. No clean one-on-one, no honor, just hands. A gang boy lunged from behind and hooked both arms around Bruce's shoulders, trying to lock him, bear hug style, crush and drag him down. At the same time, the bottle guy stepped in from the front, swinging wide for Bruce's head like he wanted glass to end the discussion. Bruce didn't try to break out first. He used the grab. He sank his weight, turned his hips, and let the man behind him become a shield. The bottle smashed, not into Bruce's skull, but into the wooden doorframe with a violent crack. Glass exploded like bright rain. The boy with the bottle cursed, hand stinging, and recoiled. Another gang member tried to kick Bruce's knee, low, dirty, a crippling shot. Bruce lifted his leg half an inch at the right time, just enough that the kick slid off into nothing. Then his heel landed back down with intent. He shifted again, rotating, and the man hugging him lost his grip for one moment, one breath. That was enough. Bruce drove an elbow backward, not big, not flashy, into the soft spot under the ribs. The hug loosened instantly. Bruce grabbed the man's wrist and yanked him forward into the space where the next attacker was charging. Bodies collided. The pack tripped over itself. In the alley entrance, one of the outside boys tried to step in with a knife now open, short blade, cheap handle, sharp enough to change everything. He didn't thrust at Bruce's chest. He held it low and angled it up, ready for the belly, because fear makes people go for what they think is guaranteed. Bruce saw the glint and moved before the blade committed, not back, side, a half step that made the knife cut air. Bruce's hand snapped down onto the knife wrist, not a gentle grab, a slap and trap. Bone met bone. The knife hand jolted. The blade skittered out of the grip and slid under a bench with a metallic scrape. No elegance, no slow-motion disarm. Just gone. The knife boy's eyes widened, shock blooming into panic, because he'd expected the knife to end this. Bruce didn't give him time to find a second weapon. He shoved the knife boy into the alley wall, shoulder first, hard enough to make him gasp and fold. But the pack was still coming. One boy rushed from the side and grabbed Bruce's jacket collar, trying to yank him down toward the puddle again, trying to drag him back into humiliation like it was a reset button. Bruce's jaw tightened. He let himself be pulled a fraction, then stepped through the pull, closing distance and robbing it of power. He trapped the grabbing hand, twisted, and the boy's wrist bent into a shape wrists aren't supposed to take. The boy cried out, loud, involuntary. That sound punched a hole in the gang's confidence, because they had been telling themselves Bruce was just lucky. Now they could hear what control sounds like. The outside attackers tried to press in again, turning the alley into a choke point. Someone yelled, "Kill the light!" A hand slapped the switch. The gym dimmed, not black, but darker, shadows thicker. A cheap trick, a desperate trick. Bruce adjusted instantly. He didn't look for everyone. He positioned so they blocked each other. He moved so the corridor became a trap for them. 2 attackers rushed at once. They collided shoulder to shoulder in the narrow space. Bruce stepped offline and let their momentum carry them into the wet concrete. One slipped. His foot went out. He fell hard. Another tried to capitalize, swinging a fist toward Bruce's face. Bruce raised his forearm, not to block like a wall, but like a blade, cutting the strike's path, redirecting it. Then a short punch to the chest made the attacker stagger back, wind knocked out. For the first time, the pack hesitated. Only for a breath. Then someone caught Bruce with a real hit, not Lau Kai, not the knife boy. A smaller gang member, quiet one, the one who'd been watching, stepped in from the blind side and drove an elbow into Bruce's mouth, a sharp, ugly impact. Bruce's head snapped slightly, warm blood filled his lip. The gym saw it. The crowd's breath hitched, because that changed the story. Bruce wasn't invincible, he could be hurt, and the pack smelled it. They surged again, hungry now, louder, more reckless, because they believed the first blood meant the end was coming. Bruce tasted iron. He swallowed once, and his eyes changed, not anger, not panic. Focus sharpening into something colder, because now it wasn't a lesson, it wasn't dignity, it was survival. And behind him, too close, he heard the teenager move, a small shuffle of shoes, a mistake. Lau Kai, still smeared with mud, saw it too. He staggered forward, eyes wild, and instead of coming for Bruce, he turned toward the kid. His hand reached out, and the pack's noise swallowed the room as Lau Kai grabbed at the boy's collar like a man desperate to regain power any way he could. Bruce saw it in a flash, blood on his lip, mud on Lau Kai's hands, a child about to become the price, and Bruce realized the next second would decide everything. Lau Kai didn't go for Bruce, he went for the boy. It was a filthy move, pure instinct from a man whose power had just been ripped away in front of witnesses. He grabbed the teenager by the collar and yanked him forward so hard the kid's feet scraped on wet concrete. Coins fell again, clinking like tiny alarms. Lau Kai's hand flashed down and came back up with the knife, second blade, not the one under the bench. This one was already open, small and mean. He didn't hold it like a trained fighter. He held it like a threat he'd used before. The point hovered near the boy's ribs, close enough that the kid froze completely, eyes wide, breath locked. Lau Kai's voice cracked with rage and desperation. "You want to be a hero?" he hissed at Bruce. "Save him too!" The alley went silent in a new way, fear squeezing all sound out of bodies. Bruce felt the trap snap shut again, but tighter this time. If he rushed, the knife could slip. If he hesitated, Lau Kai reclaimed the room. If he tried to reason, the pack behind him would swarm and the kid would become leverage forever. Blood ran down Bruce's lip into his mouth, metallic, warm. He didn't wipe it. He didn't look at the knife. He looked at Lau Kai's feet, one foot slightly forward, heel slick with mud. Toes angled wrong because Lau Kai was leaning back, using the boy as a shield. Bruce looked at Lau Kai's shoulder line, too high on the knife side, looked at the boy's chest, how shallow he was breathing, looked at the puddle where traction didn't exist. One step. Bruce took it slowly. Lau Kai jerked the knife closer and shouted, louder now, trying to regain control with volume. "Stop!" Bruce stopped, not because he was afraid, because he wanted Lau Kai to think the command worked. Then Bruce took a second step, not fast, not dramatic, just inevitable. Lau Kai's eyes flared. He tightened his grip on the boy's collar and dragged him half a step back, knife still up. "You move again and—" Bruce's left hand dropped to the ruined jacket, mud-soaked, heavy, dripping. For the first time since this began, he touched it. Not like a defeated man retrieving dignity, like a man picking up a tool. He lifted the jacket in one smooth motion and flicked it, not at Lau Kai's face, at the knife hand. The wet fabric snapped across Lau Kai's wrist and fingers like a slap. Mud and water splashed into his eyes, not blinding forever, blinding for a fraction, a heartbeat, a single lost frame. That was all Bruce needed. He exploded forward, silent and sharp, stepping inside the knife line instead of away from it. His right hand caught Lau Kai's knife wrist, not a grab, a clamp. His left hand hit Lau Kai's forearm and rotated. The blade angled away from the boy instantly, redirected into empty space. Lau Kai tried to yank back, but the mud under his heel betrayed him. His foot slipped half an inch. That half inch was the fall. Bruce turned Lau Kai's wrist and shoulder together, one connected motion, and Lau Kai's knees folded as if someone cut his strings. He dropped to one knee. Again. Not because Bruce threw him with brute force, because Bruce took away the structure that kept him standing. The knife clattered to the ground and skidded toward the puddle. The boy stumbled free, ripping his collar out of Lau Kai's grip, and scrambled backward like a man escaping a fire. Lau Kai tried to rise, panic flashing through his humiliation. Bruce didn't let him. He held Lau Kai's wrist, pinned him at that knee, and raised his other hand. Everyone in the alley expected the finishing shot, the punch, the break, the punishment. Bruce's fist stopped an inch from Lau Kai's throat. An inch, close enough that Lau Kai's eyes locked onto it and forgot how to breathe. Bruce held it there for a second, letting Lau Kai feel what control really is. Not the control of fear, the control of capability. Bruce could end it. Everyone could see that now. And then Bruce did something that destroyed Lau Kai more than any strike. He didn't. He lowered his fist slowly, released the wrist, and stepped back. Lau Kai stayed on one knee, shaking, not from pain, because his body hadn't been destroyed. His illusion had. For the first time, his eyes weren't angry. They were afraid. Not of being beaten. Of what he'd just learned. Bruce had been choosing restraint the entire time. The gang boys froze around them, caught between instinct and reality. They'd rushed in thinking numbers would win. Now the numbers didn't matter because the confidence had drained out of them. Nobody moved. The alley, moments ago a trap, became a corridor of silence. Bruce walked to the puddle and picked up the jacket. It was ruined, mud-stained, wet, heavy. He shook it once, not to clean it, just to feel its weight. Then he put it back on, right over the blood on his mouth, right over the damp shirt. A simple act that said everything. They could stain fabric, but they couldn't stain him. He walked toward the alley mouth. No one blocked him, not even as a reflex, because fear had changed direction. Bruce reached the end of the alley and paused. He didn't turn around fully, just enough that his voice carried back, quiet, controlled, almost conversational. Next time you want someone to kneel, a small pause. Make sure you understand who is standing. Then he walked out into the rain and didn't look back. And the alley stayed still, gang leader on one knee, boys frozen, witnesses breathing again, because everyone there knew the same truth now. They tried to trap him, but they were the ones who couldn't move. If that moment hit you, drop a comment with the city you're watching from, and tell me the exact second you knew Lau Kai had already lost. Subscribe, because the next Bruce Lee story gets even darker.